Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is going to be focused on modernizing secure remote access, the end of legacy SSL VPNs. Over the last several periods here, we've noticed an uptick in ransomware attacks on VPNs. This has escalated significantly recently. It's a very old, outdated technology. And we felt compelled to put this webinar together for you today to make sure that you understand what's happening, how this has become such an attack vector for ransomware, what can you do about it. And today we will be presenting that over the next 20 minutes or so. Welcome again to today's webinar. If you would, why don't we advance the slide and tell everyone who our presenters are today. So good to see everyone. My name is Mike Nowak. I'm Chief Revenue Officer of Centaris. Pleasure to be with you. And we also have with us Curt Hicks, Centaris Chief Product Officer. And Curt's going to be walking through a lot of the content here today for you. This webinar is recorded. If you'd like to revisit it, we will be thrilled to give you a copy after this webinar ends, especially if you have any team members that haven't been able to attend. So again, we hope this is very helpful for you today. If we would, why don't we, I did want to just do a quick update for folks that haven't been to one of our webinars in a while. Centaris is advancing and putting in a lot of investment into education, into working to provide better tools to serve our clients, especially with education. You will see a number of refreshes, including a new logo that you see in front of you. But for those that aren't as familiar with Centaris, or this may be the first webinar that you have, you will find we are Midwest focused. We have always been Midwest focused with a heavy history here in the Metro Detroit market. We have multiple offices here in the state of Michigan, and our team members are here, not outsourced. They are part of our team here in the great Midwest. Areas of focus, cybersecurity solutions, full in-house team, incident response team, in-house, been a passion of ours for many years. And that's part of the reason why we want to bring today's webinar to you. Managed IT services, of course, Microsoft solutions, and compliance solutions, which is a growing, ever-changing area and with regulated industries. These are areas we are putting a lot of time and energy into. So yes, thank you for that. And the last thing I would just say is another hot topic that you will see education from us on is AI and Copilot. There's a lot of opportunities there for outcomes. A lot of folks don't know what all the outcomes are and how to do data governance. So expect to see some of that coming from us very soon, as well as more information on Teams rooms and Teams phones. A lot of folks are making changes there and thrilled to provide you with opportunities there. With that being said, you'll see much more from us in the near future. In the short term, I'd like to hand it over to Curt Hicks. And Curt, why don't you tell everyone what they need to know about SSL VPN and what they can do about securing themselves.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's kind of jump in. So I guess I look at it, this is
after you join, or we can call you. That's what I wanted.
This technology was kind of born in 1995. So if you think about that from a technology perspective, it's ancient history. So it served its purpose, but right now it's really not the right architecture to have in play. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What are we going to replace this with? So SSL VPN has become a highly exposed attack vector being compromised by threat actors. We've been in a race to patch and harden the SSL VPN over the past 6 months, but it's only a matter of time before it may catch up on us. So SSL VPN still exposes the public-facing access of the world, which if compromised allows a threat actor kind of full access to your network. So the way this architecture is designed, the only way for you to get access to it is you have to expose the fact that somebody can log in through your firewall through this SSL VPN. So that's really kind of the underlying architecture and why this is what's happening today. So if you look at kind of the user profile, so who uses an SSL VPN? And it's organizations and remote workers. So it's somebody that needs to kind of extend their network from inside the office outside their office. So if you need to get access to files, you need to get access to line of business applications that are run on a server in your office, this is where the SSL VPN and that technology has primarily been used. So what is zero trust? So this is kind of the replacement or the overall concept of what's going on in the industry to replace like an SSL VPN. It's a underlying technology or principle that really doesn't trust anything by default. So you really have to, instead of where a VPN kind of leaves it open, this actually is designed to basically have least privileged access. It means you don't get access to anything unless it's absolutely defined in your role and responsibilities within the organization. So it's really about a principle of no one gets access until we give them access. And then once we give them access, it's really restricted to what they need access to. So the architecture really reduces that whole attack surface because it eliminates that broad network access. So you're not exposing that SSL VPN gateway to the internet. So the threat actors can't actually see this because it's all completely behind the curtain, if you will. So you know there's no gateway that a threat actor can look for in order to compromise it. So it's really that public-facing architecture of the SSL VPN means that the threat actors can continuously scan using technology to uncover or exploit any vulnerabilities identified with an SSL VPN. So what that means is they're not picking you individually as an organization. They use technology that just scans the whole internet and it looks for these ports open. And once these ports are open, if there's a vulnerability, it tries to expose that vulnerability. And that's what the SSL VPN gateway really does, is it leaves that kind of that visibility to the outside world so they can see it and use technology to go find it. And then if they find it and it's not patched or updated, they can exploit a vulnerability. So the private access, which is the alternative with the Zscaler product, there's no public-facing gateway, so it eliminates that exposure completely. It also restricts the portions of the network that are accessible based on the user role. It identifies and validates me as a user, my identity. It actually looks at the health of my PC. It's got to be patched and secure, and it can restrict access if my device isn't at a certain level from a security perspective. And it also it's got permissions for where I get to go on the network. So if I can only go see the line of business application and I can't see the file share where my documents may be stored, that limits any exposure from that perspective as well. And what it does is it actually looks at it every single time I go to connect through the private access. So it interrogates my identity, the device, and my permissions every single time I go to try and access my own network. So okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so the company behind this product, it's called Zscaler. They're an enterprise class pioneer in zero trust architecture, right? They have over 8,000 organizations using their solution today. 40% of the Fortune 500 are using it. Now we have a special relationship where we're able to obtain and deliver enterprise grade solutions to the SMB market based on the Zscaler platform. So this is really a premier relationship that we have with Zscaler that most people in the industry aren't even have access to or accessible. So we're trying to figure out how to take this enterprise class solution and deliver it to our clients to protect them and their networks. So that's really what we're at today. So some of the FAQs. So these are questions that we're hearing when our account managers are talking to our clients. So, has our SSL VPN been breached? And I guess the answer there is not yet. We're looking at transitioning off of this technology, so you're not going to be, at risk. But the technology is really being targeted because they're finding holes in the actual architecture, this solution, the SSL VPN. And this isn't specific to SonicWall. This is something the SSL VPN architecture applies to anybody's firewall. So Zscaler replaces that with a zero trust model that's secure and basically doesn't expose your SSL VPN out to the world. The other question is this, does this replace our firewall? No. The Sonic Wall firewall still continues to protect your network perimeter. Still looking at traffic going in and out of your network. It just doesn't let that remote connection, right? So we're transitioning to eliminate the remote connection to your firewall to this secure gateway. And that's what we're secure access via ZPA. So we are looking at alternatives actually to that physical firewall. So, down the road, there may be a situation where you don't have a physical firewall at all. It may be a cloud-based firewall, which is easier to manage. It's easier to have higher throughput from a performance perspective. It's easier to administer. It's easier to apply policies. So that is something that we are actively engaged in, identifying alternative solutions to that physical on-site firewall. Again, but it's not an issue. If we can get the SSL VPN piece out of the play here, then you're still in a really sound position. So is it required? In our recommendation, in our instance, we're saying yes. I mean, we're standardizing on this. We're eliminating this attack vector. It puts you at risk. It puts us at risk in trying to help you. It just, things change so fast that sometimes we don't get updates from the vendor that there's even an issue before the whole world knows about it. And that's where those threat actors can literally, identify a vulnerability and attack it before we even have a chance to get a patch to put on the firewall, the SSL VPN to address it. So what we're saying is if you make a decision maybe not to go down this path, then we're going to have to transition to support the best efforts. The support for the SSL VPN right now is part of our managed firewall offering. We're gonna unbundle this portion of it, and it's going to be serviced on a time and materials basis. And we're going to ask you to sign a risk acceptance form. And the form basically just says that you understand, right, that by you not making this decision to move off this platform, that you're accepting risks that if something were to happen because of this potential vulnerability, that you're going to accept the risk for that. So we are really transitioning. Our drop dead date is April 30th. So we really want to help you all, right? We're really trying to put you in a position to protect your organization and help you by moving to this new platform. So what's included in our promotional implementation? So the solution that we offer allows 5 what's called app segments. And I got another slide. I have a couple of samples and I'll explain what that means. But you get up to 5 different, it's almost like logical groupings of the information or solutions you want to have access to. So what we're saying is to keep our costs as minimal as possible for the transition, we've come up with a strategy that says we're going to take the Active Directory, and Active Directory is really kind of your security and your login and your capabilities to get access to your network. That is one sector, and then a line of business application like your QuickBooks or something of that nature, your Great Plains or your Great Plains Dynamics or Dynamics 365. So that's a line of business app because most of the time that's what the remote users are trying to access. So we're going to limit the implementation to those 2 segments. Okay, so we're going to design that, how they connect. We're going to install the client connectors. So that's got to be put on each device that is going to connect remotely. We have to test and validate it and do kind of a controlled rollout. And again, this statement of work or the scope of work for this project that we've kind of isolated to give, at least cost as possible for the implementation to 2 app segments, but you can have up to 5. So let's talk about what is an application segment. So an application segment is really just a logical grouping of things you want to get access to. So such as like intranet files, file shares, a database or an app like QuickBooks, or even printing remotely. So those are things that you might want to, from a remote perspective, want to get into your own network to run or have access to. And again, a couple examples are like an internal web app. So human resources, you might have a human resource app and that you need to have access to an HR portal internally that you need to have access to the outside. That would be considered a single application segment. And then the other one we talk about is a file share. So those are kind of the storage on an internal server. So you have a server in your office and you have files stored on that server, and you need to remotely access your server to get access to those files. That would be another app segment. And the reason we do that is because then when we define the app segment, we can define which users need access to that app segment. And why that is important is because then only that little bit of your network is theoretically exposed or accessible from that user. And because of that, if somebody were even to get access to that at all, they would only be accessing that small piece of the network instead of like on an SSL VPN where they theoretically, once they get to the network, they have access to the entire network. So, we've done a couple of these projects. Some of our clients have said, boy, it feels like it's a little higher in price from a project perspective to deploy this. Well, it's not a license. We're not just flipping a switch. We have to design the architecture. We have to, look at these app segments, create the policies around each of those, create the policies about the users. So the identity integration, and really it's just doing a rollout of that to your staff. Even though if it's 2 or 3 people, you still have to go through this whole capability model and set it up properly, even if it's 1 or 2 users. So solution pricing, again, pricing is customized based on the environment. Again, we talked about each user, we do it on a subscription basis. So it's each named user that needs access. So we'll reach out to you and talk to you about that. The one-time implementation project is required. And again, we're trying to limit the scope of that to maybe 2 app segments. Again, your project may or may not be different from that, but we try to at least get it out of the gate as 2 app segments. And when you talk to your account manager, we may have to uncover whether there's other app segments that need to be defined, or in a pre-sales capacity, we can help define that. What we have done is we put together kind of a special offer. So there's a promotional one-time implementation service discount of 15%. If you get on board and sign the proposal by April 1st, again, your account manager is going to reach out with to address any questions, or if you want to request a formal quote, you can reach out to them directly. If by chance you're not sure who you talked to, or maybe they didn't respond, which I doubt, you can send an email to info@centaris.com, and we'll make sure that we respond and then get you kind of next steps on this. So with that, I guess we're going to open the floor for questions.
Yeah, Curt, absolutely. I think there's a question or 2 that have come in. Maybe just to recap, there was a lot of information covered there. And again, we'll have the recording for folks that want to review it. But I guess just in summary, Curt, the SSL VPN, I think it's the technologies from 1995 originated. It's I think the way I'm summarizing what you said is currently it's limiting. When you go to Zero Trust and Zscaler, you're limiting to these line of business applications, and it has truly Zero Trust, modern enterprise technology. We're able to bring it down even to the small market. I think that's kind of the summary I would go with. Is that well said?
Fair. Yep.
Excellent. And I guess folks that are on the call that are considering this, main things that we need to do to kind of help put together a design is how many users really are remote, I guess, that need line of business access. Seems to be around the main questions to ask. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know there's one question. Yep. Go ahead, Curt.
Yeah, I saw the question. So this isn't a Zscaler is really a software product. So it isn't an issue of it being compatible with the hardware. So because it kind of sits in front of the firewall, so it's really a cloud-based solution. So you really kind of go through the cloud to actually get to your firewall. So it really is not it's not predicated on any specific hardware.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
And then we also had Dan Redstone asked, we use NetExtender to connect remotely to our office computers and files. How does this relate to either the SSL VPN or your proposed change?
Roger, you want to take that one?
Yes, I was just typing a response into the comment. So certainly NetExtender is specific to SonicWall. So when you use NetExtender, that's connecting to the SSL VPN. When we switch you over to Zscaler, you'll use a Zscaler client connector that's installed, and that will give you that zero trust access. You'll have the same experience as you did before. You just simply log into the Zscaler client, just like you logged into NetExtender, and access to your file shares or whatever application we've set up will be the same as it was before.
Yep.
Additionally, he asks, what if you use your cloud server?
No difference on that front. Again, you're still going to have access to that like you would today.
Correct.
If you didn't see, Bruce also said, thank you. April 30th seems pretty ambitious to have all of your customers switched over. What happens if that date comes and we are not ready?
Well, again, I think it's a matter of the commitment. We want to get everybody at least signed up for this. You know, we're not going to penalize you if we haven't been able to deploy it, because we are going to obviously have a bunch of projects along this line to get it done. But we're really asking you to make a commitment and sign off on that and get it going. So.
Yeah, I think maybe just in terms of timeline, Curt, I think I would just add is because of the concern of this. So we've had a lot of internal planning meetings that we've had to prioritize this because of the concern with it. So I think if folks are ready, we can jump on it pretty quickly.
So
I have a question.
Yep. Good.
Dan Redstone.
Yeah.
So earlier you were referring to different groups within the organization, like human resources and QuickBooks, but if everything's in the cloud, including all of the software and all of the applications, how extensive does this cost get? In other words, when I come in remotely with my NetExtender to my computer, I can get to all of my applications and files and formats. And so the implication I heard earlier was that for each different application, it's going to have a separate kind of cost.
You want me to take that one, Curt?
Yeah,
Please.
I think
Yeah,
it's pretty
so
simple.
So if today you come in with NetExtender and you remote into your office computer, that will continue with Zscaler. The purpose of eliminating the NetExtender product and the SSL VPN is because you have a public IP on that firewall that's exposed to the entire world. If it's reachable, it's breachable. And we're going to eliminate that attack vector by hiding that public IP and allowing you to remote right back into that computer that you have. And from there, you can do everything that you did before. Nothing will change. It's not going to cost any more money than what you are, for paying for the Zscaler product to do that.
So basically, it's just switching out from the SSL. It's a one-on-one.
It is SSL to zero trust. Yeah. The difference is, Dan, is today, even though you only remote into your computer, once you connect with the SSL VPN client, the NetExtender, your remote computer actually has access to everything in the entire office. If your remote computer got breached, they could attack anything in the office. With zero trust and Zscaler, that won't be the case. They only have access to what you have access to and what we define.
Okay, but it's really a one-on-one, and depending on if you have 5 employees working remotely or part-time remotely, that would be 5 remote computers that have to be changed.
Correct. It would be 5 that would have to be set up. So it'd be based on a 5-user license.
Yeah, named users. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's a setup plus each user that goes remotely would have be a cost to set it up.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. And I know this is just general, and I can get with Brian Poet to get my own personal quote, but do you have some approximation of how much it is per remote device?
Now, let's see. I think we can probably just have Brian reach out to you on that.
Okay. That's
we have
fine.
to look at your situation, because I think I just need to understand a little bit better, what applications you're accessing and how. Because if they're cloud-based apps, we got to figure out, do you really, why are you going to need a remote PC and whatnot? So we'll have to look at your situation, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm not saying they're cloud-based apps necessarily. I'm saying that they are, in the sense that when I log into QuickBooks or Quicken, that's a cloud-based app, but all
Right.
that software is in your cloud. It's on my server, which is in your cloud.
Yeah.
We don't have a physical
Ser-
server anymore.
You have a server on-prem? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so Dan, in that case, access wouldn't be any different. So if you're running a cloud-based, a SaaS-based solution, the
Mhm.
Zscaler Private Access has no impact on that cloud-based SaaS solution.
Okay.
It only has a impact on what you access in your office. And if today you're remoting into your office to a computer, that's really that's the only thing you do, then that's the only thing we're going to replace with Zscaler.
Right. Except that everything that my remote computer now goes to everything that's in my cloud, including all of my software applications.
Correct.
Okay. All right. But I'm only worried about that first connection to my in office computer. Okay.
That is correct.
Great.
Excellent.
Understand.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions before we wrap up today?
Yeah, we've got a question from Clay down here. It looks like he's
You got it?
concerned with how the vendors will access.
So vendors can access your network the same way that they're accessing it today. Instead of using Net Extender, they would use the Zscaler Client Connector app. If it's a web-based, let's say the vendor is accessing a internal hosted website, we can allow that access without a client. But if they're remoting into your servers, or they're getting into QuickBooks, or any type of remote access to an application, we would simply need to have that vendor install the client connector, and they would be set up for remote access. And they would only have access to the application that we grant them versus the entire network which they're getting today.
So Clay has bounced back and is asking, we do not control their computers. So what if their computers don't meet the requirements?
That's a great question. Policies can be granular. So we can define a policy for that vendor, and other policies will apply to other people in the organization. So it's not a 100% all or
Absolute.
nothing.
Yeah. Right.
So we can be as granular as we need to be to accommodate that particular user.
Any other questions? Great. Well,
Excellent.
again, we appreciate y'all participating today. And again, as Mike alluded to, this is being recorded. So we'll send out the deck and the recording so that you have access to the information if you need to share it with somebody else within your organization. Again, we definitely want you to reach out to your account manager for any additional questions or to request that proposal. So
Excellent. Thanks,
Hey,
everyone.
Curt, we got one more question in the chat from Rachel.
okay.
Is the fee for each remote user a one-time fee?
We set up the architecture, and that's part of having each user is part of that setting up. Then you have a one-time install, like install that agent for that, or excuse me, the client software for that remote user. In respects to getting quotes out, we have it pretty much templatized. If we know your line of business apps and the number of named users that need access to this, our team can turn that around pretty quick. Right now, I mean, provisioning and getting this done, even to do it, to create the policies, to deploy it, to test it, it's probably a 2-week from the day you say go to the time it's, completely done and tested and deployed. So that's kind of the window of what it's going to take to get this solution in play. So obviously, the sooner you are in the cycle, the sooner we're going to be able to address it on your behalf.
I have one last question. You need to physically have each of the remote devices to install?
We'll probably just, remote access to them, yeah.
Okay, remote access. You can
Yeah,
install remotely. Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
if the automate agent is installed, we can deploy the Zscaler client through that method.
yeah, which is the tool that we use to put on every device so we can remotely manage it, monitor and whatnot. So yeah, patch it.
If it's a vendor, you would be responsible for getting that client to the vendor and having them install it. And it's an easy installation. It's just a couple clicks to get it installed.
Our help desk can help you with that if you need be, yeah.
There was a question from Rachel, is it a one-time fee versus for each remote user? It is a monthly fee for remote users, right, Curt?
Yeah,
So
there's a monthly fee
there's
to-
a
the
one-time
the
fee
licensing
for
and
the
the management, yeah.
installation.
There's a one-time installation fee, but that's part of the setup, yeah.
And Rachel, if you're a Microsoft company, it's essentially the same as licensing a user with a Microsoft license. There is a monthly fee to have that license for Zscaler.
Okay, any other questions?
And Bruce asks, how soon can they expect a quote?
Yeah, like I said, I think I commented on that. You know, we can turn around pretty quick as long as we know the line of business apps and the number of users, so.
Excellent. Well, very good. I think we can handle anything else that comes in. Again, thanks everyone. We'll have the recording if you'd like to review it.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye now.